Max Stossel.
Hi guys, thanks for coming, thanks for your time. One thing I like to start with is take one big deep breath in and out. One more time with an audible exhale in and out. It feels good to be a human being. I'm a poet and filmmaker and part of a movement called Time Well Spent, which is a movement to align technology with our humanity. And the reason I'm here with you today is before I became an artist, I spent about 8 years working in social digital media and paying very, very, very close attention to how these algorithms that have come to so deeply influence the way we receive information, the stories we tell, and what we share, how they've changed our world. And so I first sort of got exposed to this. It was 2009, 2010. I was doing social strategy for Budweiser. There's this new Facebook thing. We're supposed to be on it. What should we do on this? Nobody wants to read our press releases. And so, okay, we took a look at what would work in this Facebook algorithm system. And what we found worked were two things. One, putting ideas in front of people that they already believe. And two, extreme statements. And, people, they liked beer, they liked Budweiser. Hero shots of product worked, and, whatever. Then saying Budweiser is the greatest beer did a whole lot better than here's how Budweiser is made. The extreme statements, when you're saying you're the king of beers, gets positive comments, negative comments, it's all good for reach, and that was the goal. And, who cares? Well, who cares what brands do on social media? Honestly, whatever, it doesn't have very much of an impact. But what was jarring to me was when I started to watch the rest of the world follow these same patterns. When I started to see news organizations tailoring the stories that they tell in the same way we were doing at Budweiser. And so, there's a version of this that's been happening throughout history, where there's a thing that happens, and it's the news's job to express that to the world, and they have to tweak it to make it as exciting and as engaging as possible. But for the first time in history, there is an algorithm and a series of a couple of algorithms that have a huge amount of power over what actually reaches an audience and what doesn't. So the people at these news organizations feel the need to tailor their message to what works in this algorithm. Putting ideas in front of people of things they already believe, and extremes tend to work very well. And it's not just clickbaity headlines. You might remember the Ebola Scare in 2014, which is a good example of this. Any sort of expert on the subject would have told you there's no real threat. The doctor followed the protocol to the T. But as also has happened throughout history, news organizations tend to make a big deal out of these medical scares because it drives a lot of traffic and creates a lot of ad revenue. But once again, never before in history has there been such gasoline to pour on this fire. It's all set up. There were something like 5,000 tweets a second that were happening at a certain moment here. This is unprecedented speeds and volume at which both misinformation and all sorts of information can spread in this attention economy where these algorithms are maximized for engagement. Engagement is the thing that is most prioritized. And so what that's done is it's tipped the scales. And this has, again, always existed in news. But because these people at these news organizations feel so enslaved to these algorithms, that we've reached a point where what's exciting or what is outrageous or what makes people angry has started to really dominate over what is true and what is accurate. And it was shocking to me that a little algorithm, one company or a couple of companies' choices as to what to show and what not to show could so gravely change the nature of stories that we are telling. And so another consequence of this, and many of you have probably seen this, the Washington Post put something together called Red Feed, Blue Feed, which is Facebook is trying to show you the most engaging, best content they can for you. And one consequence of this is a lot of personalization. And it's not just Facebook. When I Google things and you Google things, at times we see different results based on demographics, what device we're on, Wi-Fi, etc. Organizations like the New York Times will send us different push notifications based on our history of what we've read. So we have this very personalized news system. And when you combine that with so much data, Facebook records everything, Google records everything, you have a very effective mechanism of showing people exactly really what we already believe. And when we see opposing points of view, they're presented in ways that are sort of designed to make us angry, to enrage us. Got to get in that comment battle with that person and tell them how stupid they are, and we're all spending more time on the apps as we're doing that. It's very challenging to present opposing ideas in an actually neutral way, but it's just not the priority in these systems. And if you remember that time you scrolled through her pictures for a full 20 minutes but didn't like anything, because Facebook remembers. Facebook remembers everything you've ever clicked on, what you hover over and for how long, what you've liked, shared, and commented on, whose profiles you visited, and how deep you've gone. Facebook owns Instagram. And Instagram tracks the location of every picture you've ever taken. Facebook owns WhatsApp, and what's that but a way to track your messages back across your social graph? Facebook knows. And Facebook likes to show you content you'll like ideas you've already liked and people with like ideas. So what happens when our perception of the world becomes an algorithm designed to feed us what's already on our minds? Versus opening our minds, exposing our minds, and leaving our preconceived notions behind. What happens when Democrats are fed only hero stories about Democrats and horror stories about Republicans? When exactly the inverse is true too, then what happens? And it's not just politics, but with any conflict. What happens when it becomes completely impossible to empathize with the other side because we're immersed in the confines of our own minds and like minds, and I want to like your mind, even if it isn't like mine, though anatomically it's almost exactly like mine. But you've been taught differently than I. Your values differ from mine, and that's fine so long as we're open to each other's sides and don't resort to clawing out each other's eyes, getting so trapped in our beliefs that we hide condemning evidence that hurts our side with secrets and with lies. And if you took that last line about hiding, condemning secrets and lies to be about the other side, it's not. It's about your side, and I say that to all sides. The truth matters most when it is not on your side. And don't get me wrong, social networks can be powerful forces for good, and we should empower those being silenced by tyrants, give a voice to the quiet and misunderstood. But can we get some transparency? Because recently, I've been trying to hide my browser history from everybody. Just because I don't want the internet classifying me, I want to see what the world wants me to see without being encumbered by all these algorithmic biases. My reasons for desiring so much privacy are less about what you're taking and more about what you're serving me. And I know I could turn on the tab of recency, but so long as everyone else is subject to being test subjects in digital laboratories, I'd like to keep them company. And if you're not convinced this filtration system's dangerous, think about the child growing up digitally ingrained in ISIS and what he might think the value of a life is. And then try and understand that our cultural bubble has us believing something almost as troubling. We'd be blinded to it, as with all these affirmations, our beliefs will be redoubling, and I don't claim to be able to navigate the very maze that I'm describing. But let's take this moment together, recognizing that our world is a story these algorithms are co-writing. So let's seek out opposing opinions actively, respect our opposition's intelligence, explore alternatives with empathy. Let's never stop striving for variety, because there are some things that Facebook, Google, this whole personalized web doesn't know. It doesn't know the emotional impact of constant FOMO. It doesn't know how gratifying it is to overcome discomfort and then truly grow. It doesn't know there are some people I need to let go, even if I'll never stop clicking their photo. It doesn't know how much the world needs voices with which we don't agree, how badly we need empathy for our fellow human beings. Everybody thinks they're the good guy. Everybody's not wrong because they disagree. There's data to back up their opinions too. Our world now has so much bias that it's rare to find an ounce of truth, and the moment we stop looking for it, searching for it actively, we'll lose. These algorithms don't care about bringing humanity together. Do you? So yeah, I'm a poet, and I do poetry stuff sometimes. Thank you. And so I'd like to say that, I realized social media had these negative connotations and I stopped working on it. A lot of this, honestly, took me a very long time to put together. When I stopped doing social strategy about 3-4 years later, I fell in love with the startup world and thought, hey, I know social media. I'll work on a social media startup. And have you ever looked down at your phone and computer and then immediately forgotten why? Show of hands. Yeah, good. And some liars. Perfect. So that was my job. I was designing notification structures to take you out of your world and bring you into mine. And many of you in this room are familiar with the industry. You're familiar with maximizing for that engagement. And it works. Like, we're humans. We're persuadable. There are some tactics that just work at grabbing and holding our attention. Auto-playing videos, for example, will keep people in an app or experience a little bit longer than if they have to click play themselves. If you look up variable rewards, a lot of the phone is built a lot like a slot machine. It's like when clicking that red little icon, we're pulling the lever. Ooh, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a text from that person I care about? Am I going to get a notification that matters to me? And sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't. And I realized that my goals weren't the same as the goals of the people who are using my product. We were told that if we could keep you for 2 minutes or longer, we had a valuable company. And so we wanted to raise our Series A at a high valuation. And so that was my goal. And we were creating sort of social engineering to try to give people things they wanted, but we weren't really aligned. And I realized that was the case for Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, for the entire attention economy, where everybody has to, with advertising models, hold more attention this year than they had last year. The investors demand it. And I realized that as architects of our digital world, we need to be better, because we can be. And we can see that these systems are designed with intricacy so that companies can keep our attention indefinitely. I don't want to keep crushing these fucking candies. I don't want these alerts to completely command me. I don't care if that panda bear is dancing. Well, maybe. With a hula hoop. Okay, this is fantastic. I have to share this with my 10 friends and 10,000 strangers. Caption, who wants to throw a panda rager? Great, let me go back about my life. For God's sakes, I'm trying to right swipe my wife. It's been 30 seconds and just 2 Facebook likes. Or is that just 2 for which I've been notified? Let me go back and check inside and see whose likes they tried to hide. They don't show them all. I wonder why. This panda's dancing. And another video plays after automatically. This one of a gopher that stage turns dramatically. It's like my attention is kept systematically raptured by algorithms that know exactly what I want. Or not what I want, just what I'll watch. And the people behind this intelligent design genuinely want to better our lives. But their bonuses just so happen to be tied to keeping time on site exceptionally high. And now even my news apps have been gamified, and what am I, not gonna click the one simple sex tip guaranteed to blow her mind? Wait, where was I? And why have I forgotten to look for that thing I'm supposed to find? And my God, look at the time. It is shocking. But somehow, yes, Netflix, I am still watching. And I know. I should have more self-control. But just so we're clear, you just spent a couple $1 million producing this story designed to cut off at the end, leaving me wanting more. See, of course, I want to see what you have in store. See my cursor already waiting there on the screen floor as you tease the next hour in all of its glory, and you'll give it to me, unless I actively abort. It seems this decision's already made for me. The countdown clock's moving. There it goes. 5, 4, 3. I need to sleep. But you made me want this more. This is not what I consciously signed up for when I hit play on one episode 6 hours ago. And so there's become a fundamental difference between what we want and what we'll watch. We have so much data. We understand the way the brain works, and we understand design well enough to truly be able to manipulate people into doing things that they wouldn't necessarily want to do. And when I was doing it, I didn't process that I was doing it. I thought, I'm getting people to spend more time. They must like doing this. But it's just not the case. And so an example of this here, this app called Moment. People take screenshots of their battery life, and then they look back over their time, and they're asked, was this a good use of your time? Or were you happy with this use of your time, or were you not happy with this use of your time? And what's interesting when you look at this is that the apps we're spending the most time on have the highest percentage of unhappy users of those apps. You look at, it's funny that Grindr is the first one. There's a whole mess of sort of unsatisfying probably behaviors that's going on there. Candy Crush, Facebook, Reddit. I didn't mean that in an anti-gay way, by the way. I just meant like the meaningless sex part. Weibo, Tinder, Subway Surf, like these are a lot of the gaming apps, Instagram, Snapchat. And on the left, the ones that are making people happy, Calm is a meditation app, tend to be utilities. And actually, it's interesting that audio, people tend to rate their use as satisfying of. But when we get into that visual atmosphere, people are much less happy. And, and there, of course, you could point to problems with how this data is collected. People are willing to take this survey, but, but I think it still says something. And similarly here, too, on average, happy users of apps spend about 2.4 times less on the specific app than people who rated their use as unhappy. Like, these are great. Technology is amazing. Powerful tools that, like, connect us and do all these fantastic things. But what does it say that the person at, let's find, where's Facebook on here? Facebook, when like the happy average user is spending about 20 minutes a day and the unhappy user is spending like an hour, and when the person at Facebook's job is to get them to spend as much time as possible, there's a disconnect. Our goals are not the same as the user's goals. And it's going to seem like I'm taking a sidetrack here, but that point of our goals are not the same as users' goals is very interesting. And so, we've all heard the stories of, oh my God, AI is going to come and kill us all. And it's going to be a big robot foot that stomps on our faces. But what I like about this image is, you think about the intelligence, computational power of an ant to us, to a computer. And computers, you could argue, are not more intelligent than people yet, but in some ways, they obviously outperform us significantly. But so we don't go out of our way to harm ants, most of us. In fact, often we take great care to pick them up and to not harm them. But the moment that our goals are not the same as their goals, the moment that we want to, really just that their goals interfere, or our goals, they interfere with our goals. When we want to build, for example, on an anthill, we annihilate them without any sort of question about it. And I'd actually like to argue that we've already lost the first battle to AI. That we should be thinking less about future runaway algorithms that are going to physically stomp on us, and think more about the runaway algorithms that exist today that have just stopped prioritizing the things that we care about. And we often think with runaway AI, think about this. This is the standard we're all going to die AI future image. And it's scary, but it feels to me much less likely than this. And which is from Wall-E, which is great. And this idea that we get farmed for our attention. And it's so engaging. You guys are happy. There's such good content on the TVs, and it's just so good and so engaging. But we're just sort of convinced the attack is mental and not physical. And what we want is fundamentally altered. And of course, this is a joke. This would never actually, happen. This isn't the type of thing that could, exist in the... Oh, sorry, I changed the slide there. So it's... I used to use that as a joke, and this picture came out and it was quite funny, and that's, it's not fair. This is a demo, and everybody isn't doing this all the time. But it's, but we're doing this all the time. And when we're not looking at it there, any experience we're having, we're doing this on the other side of it. And so at what point do we sort of ask ourselves of have we been truly has our minds been hijacked? Are we using technology, or is it using us? Have we already lost this first battle with AI? I think the next slide plays automatically. So I don't want, a lot of us don't work at Facebook, Google, Apple, the places that have disproportionate power to make systemic change in this industry. But I do want to give some examples of how we can kind of take a step back from this and think differently, especially about advertising models when we are designing our own tech products. Oh, that's not the next slide, but I like this. This is an artist who photoshops the phones out of pictures. And it's, have we have we lost the first battle with AI here? Is this how we want to live? And again, it's not about, we're on our phones all the time. It's what we're seeing. It's what is engaging us. It's the extreme stuff. It's the, the super addictive sort of information and how that's persuading us that I'm more concerned about. The quality of life, of course, is not ideal when we're always here. But some examples of how it can be different and designed for human values.
If you're like me, you've too often been sitting at an airport or crammed onto a middle seat of a plane at some horrid hour, either late at night or early in the morning, and you're thinking to yourself, why didn't I just spend those extra $40 on that other flight? We like to think that we're making conscious choices, but when we're all in a rush, the more we rely on the menus in front of us. Hipmunk is a travel website that recognized this, and they let you sort choices by human values. It's not just price or duration, but they let you sort by agony. They do this because they ask themselves, what is sorting for a price or duration about? It's not just about the raw numbers, it's about the human experience and values behind travel. So it's important to ask ourselves, what are the human values at stake in this choice? Another example where technology can help us live by our values could be when you're looking for directions from point A to point B. Of course, we know we could walk, but what if, since you've told your phone in your settings that you've been wanting to exercise, it put a choice on life's menu that said, or you could walk, and here's the fitness goal you could achieve by doing so. Or maybe in your settings, instead of valuing exercise, you've said you valued productivity, so it offers up a podcast you might like to finish in that time. 28 minutes left in the podcast, 30-minute walk, it's on your team. There could be menus that sort choices by what matters to you. We can upgrade the goal from getting to point A to point B efficiently to getting from point A to point B well. And remember, no one decides what well means to you but you. What if technology was on your team to help you live by your values?
So I want to give a couple more examples of things like this. And we're aligning the reasons, not just the behavior, which I think we've come to a point where our behaviors are not necessarily aligned with what we want in our actions, as some of this earlier information has showed, but we align the reasons people are doing things with what our AI or what our technology is optimizing for. So Couchsurfing is a website like that matches travelers with people who want a couch to crash on. And you might think they would be optimizing for matching the most travelers with the most people with couches. But what they actually do is they estimate the total number of hours that the people have spent together. They take the ratings, and they subtract the time spent on Couchsurfing.com because that's a cost to our lives. And so they've created a metric that they jokingly call net good times, which is because Couchsurfing exists, this many positively rated hours exist in the world. And if you think about it, how empowering would it be to live in a world where that's how technology were measuring its success, based on how well it really brought us value? What if devices were not being optimized for just endless scrolls, but were being optimized for quick in and out choices or quick in and out actions that let us get what we need from technology and put it down? If home screens and if browsers were optimized for both on-screen and off-screen choices, has so much data, so much ability, why not use those, see what actually matters to us and let us decide? Social networks, what if they weren't optimized for time spent and for engagement? What if they were optimized to reduce human loneliness? It's something we can measure. Creating meaningful experiences, spending time with people we've indicated that we really care about and want to spend more time with. That's a social network. News feeds, if they weren't optimized for clicks, for engagement, but if they were optimized for in-depth reporting, if they were optimized for accurate information from a did this happen or did this not happen standpoint. And this might sound all far-fetched, we're on different models and that's not how it works. But I really believe there's a market here. Like, I'm very much willing to pay, and know many others are willing to pay for products that are actually caring about me and about my values, that are on my team. And I would not pay for Facebook now by any means, but if it were using the mass amounts of data that it had on me to align with me and give me things I care about, I absolutely would. And so there are companies who have already started measuring their success in human values. Meetup here helps create 1 million hours of people connecting in real life every month. Headspace helps each user add 10 minutes of calm and lower stress every morning. Adblock helps each user reclaim 30 to 40% of their attention across the internet. Asana helps teams become 45% more efficient. Hinge helps each user spend 80% less time swiping and 5 times more in conversations. Many dating apps optimize for number of swipes, which is not what we want out of relationships. Duolingo helps each user learn a university semester's worth of language in 34 hours of use. So the theme across all of these, and you'll notice many of these are paid products because people are willing to pay for these values to be aligned. But the reasons that we come into these experiences and the things they're measuring their success about we're on the same page. And that's extremely, extremely important, especially as machine learning algorithms get so good at optimizing for whatever we're setting them to optimize, they damn well better be optimizing for what we actually want. Or we end up in a situation that we're in now, where you look at the state of news, and you look at the state of politics, and you see things are better than they've ever been from most measurements. But we're panicking about everything. There's a disconnect there because that works in our ecosystem. I think that's my last slide. But yeah, architects of our digital world. You have more data, information, and control over our attention, the tools to tweak our emotions so we'll return to your experience. But is that what we should do? Or should you build digital tools so advanced they can actually enhance the world outside the device in our hands? Can you add so much value that it lets us put our phones back in our pants as fast as we possibly can? Not time-sucking, time-giving innovation. That's what it means to be truly technologically advanced. The future is not all screens. It's humanity enhanced. Thank you guys very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the incredible performance.
Appreciate it.
And for bringing up a very important topic, this digital addiction, right? I mean, I'm still waiting for the job ad for, digital addiction specialist, like dealers. It's kind of like drug dealers. Yeah, no, we deal content, actually. But perfect. I want to open up the round of questions, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, perfect.
And I want to jump out there. Do you guys have any questions? Maybe let's start with one. Do you guys, how many hours do you waste per day on your phone? Like over an hour? Over 2 hours? Okay, that's better. Do you think they're lying?
I mean, some, of course, are always lying. But I think we don't know. One of the things that I think would be extremely helpful for technology to do is to mirror our actions back to us, is to help us. Right, Moment is an app that lets you do it, but it's kind of cumbersome to go through that process. If within our operating systems, it could help us see how we are spending our times, that gives us the power to moderate that. But the truth is, if we were to recognize, hey, you spent 3 hours on Facebook today, that's not in Facebook's best interest to show us, because the reaction would be, oh wow, I got to do this less.
You kind of fall into it, right? Because there's a Google Chrome add-on there, so you could block Facebook.com for a couple hours a day. And, you find yourself going back there and you're like, a page is blocked. You're like, damn it, they got me again. So this happens pretty frequently.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of tools, extensions that are out there that will block Facebook newsfeed, so you can use some of the other great features on it without being sucked into that hole. We're starting to see a market for.
Do you have any recommendations? Maybe that'd be interesting to save a few hours of your time.
I would love to. I'm actually blanking on I just looked up like a bunch, and I'm blanking on the name. Newsfeed Exterminator, Eliminator. It's called one of those things. And there's YouTube DF, YouTube Distraction Free, which blocks like the next videos and the other suggestions, and lets you go into what you're doing. And it's Band-Aids. We need systemic fixes to this problem, but it's cool that there's a market popping up for that too.
Very much so on the interest element side. Perfect. I want to open up the round for questions. Hold on, let me throw you the cube here. All right, here.
Hi there. I'm curious, not that you probably would do this, but if you would go back to Budweiser and work on social. Because most big corporations have social strategy as part of their kind of agenda right now. What would you do different? How would you approach it differently, knowing that there is a piece of kind of share of voice that every company is looking for?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was doing this then too. They were so pumped that their engagement was skyrocketing. They were like, oh my God, this is, I was like, what did this do? Like, how did this help your business? Like at all? Like, are we measuring sales? Can we like geo-target certain areas and see if we're selling more beer? They just didn't care. They were just like, look, the line, it's going up on the graph. But so it's, if I were going, like, I now have deeply complicated relationships with social media. But I'm big on why. I'm big on asking ahead of time, of being like, why are we doing this? What are we actually gaining out of this process? What is the goal we're trying to accomplish, and how can social media help us achieve that goal? And because it's a reality, right? Like, we need to, for most of our businesses here, we need to reach people. So we're stuck in this attention war, and social media is a powerful tool of winning that attention war, or at least competing in it. But I would say, can we really be thoughtful about what we're asking of people and what we're giving people, and can we add real value in the space? Is that possible? I personally almost never share things anymore because I often just have a hard time, really, if I'm looking inward, being like, why do I need to share this with everybody? Why can't I send this to a friend who I want? Like, it's often a reflection of my own insecurity as opposed to like, but you can't,
Unless it's a dancing panda, right?
Unless it's a dancing panda. And also, in my video, I may turn these into films, and those rely on social media. And so I just have to kind of convince myself, well, I believe I'm caring enough to really respect everybody's time and believe what I'm putting out is actually more valuable than something else they might be doing. But it's complicated to me.
Perfect. Next question. Does anybody else have a question? Oh, yeah, in the back. You can just toss it back. Just don't hit the camera. Perfect.
My question is like, do you have like any strategies that you can recommend like that would help us to get out of this filter that we're in, like
as consumers?
Yes.
And there's timewellspent.io is the website for this movement. It has some good strategies. I'll list off a couple, but you'll forget them because it's a busy day, and you can go back there and see them. So one is setting your notifications. So notifications are a really powerful tool that app designers and developers can use to hook you in, right? Your phone has everything you need. All of a sudden, you've got this jolt. If you can set your notifications to only alert you when you're getting something from a person and not a machine, it's like you're getting text messages, you're getting WhatsApp, someone's trying to contact you versus liked your photo. Someone tagged you in a photo, like that idea of a little message saying, this person tagged you in a photo. It's like someone said something about you to the whole internet. You don't have to look at it now, it's fine. But do you maybe want to like come into our environment of like turning off some of their ability to send you those manipulative time sucks and have people be in control of notifications. Another is mornings. We're very vulnerable. Many of us, our alarm clocks are our phones. So we wake up, boom, turn off the alarm clock, and all of a sudden we're behind. We've missed a million things, and there's so many options to come, be sucked in. Alarm clocks are $8 on Amazon. So buying a physical alarm clock and charging your phone outside of your bedroom is a really powerful way to take control of your day. And the final one I'll give is, and I think there are a couple more on the site, but I have all of my apps that are not utilities in a folder on my second page. And whenever I want to go to something, I scroll down to search versus going. Just makes it a little bit more of a conscious choice. I want to open Instagram. I want to open this thing. You may relate to like opening up your phone, swiping through your apps, swiping back through your apps, closing your phone. You guys ever done that? It's a ridiculous behavior that we've started to do. But it sort of takes away the
thumb exercise,
making ssure they're there. It just makes it more of a conscious choice to go into something. Those are 3 tools that have been helpful to me, but they're band-aids. We need to get the designers of a lot of these technologies on our team.
It's like the no phone. Did you see this as an April Fool's joke? Somebody built like a fake iPhone that just 3D printed a piece of plastic. It's a really funny thing. It's like, oh, my no phone. Yeah, I got that instinctive grab. It's like cigarettes, right? You're just like, yeah, that's right.
The no phone. And it's a shame that it often has to be either all on or either all off right now, because technology is fantastic. But when we're in this attention economy, there's so much grab for us that often it feels like totally disconnecting is the only way to deal with it, which shouldn't have to be like that, but. Also, if you never have totally disconnected, I recommend that too, just to
There's no push notifications on typewriters, right?
Right.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions? Is that a picture or question?
We got someone.
Oh, picture.
Yeah.
All right.
We got someone.
In the back? Oh, perfect. Just throw the dice. Or pass it. That's a little safer.
Sometimes I wonder, why are we so uncritical towards technology as opposed to, let's just imagine this technology would be a political party. Wouldn't there be more debate about how it works and what it does to us and what it could do? Sometimes it feels like we're starstruck. We look at it and we're like, oh my God, wow.
And also there's this storyline that technology is a tool. It can be used for good, it can be used for evil. It's up to us to decide how we should use this thing. We can't criticize the technology, it's just there. there's just sort of some false logic because we've gotten so good at persuasion and we are persuadable. And the idea that like Facebook's neutral, it's people that decide we want this, we want the popular stuff, we want the cat videos, we want Trump. Like that's what the algorithm decides because that's what people are clicking on. So like there's this idea that technology is neutral and we'll just put it out and let people decide. But I think and that's the reason I think there's not more criticism to it. But I think we need to acknowledge that by not making a choice, we're choosing the base human instincts, and like we're going to let that, dictate how our environments work. But yeah, let's be more critical. Let's, talk about it with your friends and think about how technology is influencing us and the world around us.
I think one of the first steps of addiction is to actually realize you're addicted to this, right? I mean, I don't. How many people say they're addicted to their phone? Okay, so I guess everybody's guilty now. But, it's one of those things you wouldn't say, like, hi, I'm addicted to my phone. It's just something that it's like normal, right? It's like, yeah, of course.
It brings us so much value in so many ways that we tolerate it.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's positive sides, up and down sides.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Maybe upstairs as well. I know it's really hard to see because there's this
upstairs.
Bright light upstairs of the bright minds.
I'm sorry for not looking at you the entire time.
I know. It's like the polar star up there. You see that? It's like yeah. Anybody have any questions up there? There should be a mic also running.
We got some over here.
Or down here. Yep, just toss the cube. Or actually throw in this.
I don't dare.
Yeah. It looks softer than it is.
Thanks. I wonder how you feel about, you're giving a presentation about stuff that I guess most of us already know or have heard somehow. In your presentation, you also say that Facebook is successful, or all these social media companies are successful because they show us stuff that we like to see and that we already kind of know. And so how do you feel about using the same principles now on stage? It's just a change of medium, but you use the same principles.
Sure. So, I mean, I think I would probably assume that probably half the room here would be very familiar with lots of what I'm talking about. And I would say half of the people here would probably have not thought about it in this way. But in terms of like preaching to the choir, it's a problem. Like I would love to, we are talking to we talk to the people at Facebook, at Google, and try to tell them to their faces of like, hey, this is like, here's how this is affecting us, and we're not happy with it. And can we open up this dialogue? The filter, and also I think on Facebook, just to correct one piece of what you mentioned, like it's not just things we like on Facebook, but it's things that will that we'll engage with, things that will trigger, things that will keep us there, and that tend to fundamentally agree with our ideas.
Please allow one follow-up question.
Yeah, of course.
How do you plan, or how do you approach the getting over the bubble? So are there strategies how you, for example, your presentation, how you could give them to an audience that doesn't want to hear it, or what are your strategies to get across it? So
I absolutely believe we need a sort of revolution in communication. There's the environment, and this is, I'll stray a bit, but I'll come back. The environment of Facebook, where here's an idea, here's a little box, type your opinion, your feeling about this bot. Like, have you ever seen a positive resolution in a Facebook war? Everything just sort of builds and builds and builds. It is not really an environment that is very conducive to solution. Maybe we can empower people to get together face to face. Face to face is a much more powerful medium of resolving conflicts. Can we use technology to empower more of that discussion across the aisle? Can we have compassion correct in our typing that says, you're writing this, which may make this, our data shows this may make this person react adversely to what you're saying. Would you like to change this and this word to make it a little bit more, digestible for them? Can we use technology to help? Because that's the thing, and that's Facebook defends themselves saying, no, more people are exposed to other ideas. And yes, that's true. But they're being presented in ways that are not appealing or digestible in any way. And if that were a priority, I think they could do it quite well. They've got, I don't know how many employees. They could figure out better solutions than I could, but I think those are starting points.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you very much. I think that's all that we have time
guys.
for a question. Thank you. A big round of applause. And hold on, we've got you. Thank you very much. Also, we're also going to send you back with the
wow.
sounds of the future and obviously the bag to carry that in.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you all.
Perfect. Thank you. Good.